Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard. Thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, on Tuesday morning, we've got a large area of the central United States, including a chunk of the Corn Belt, dealing with flash flood watches as we, again deal with this pesky boundary stalled across the region, seeing disturbances travel along that, and then the just regeneration of rounds of showers and thunderstorms traveling along that boundary over already saturated soil. So that's where that flash flood watch comes in. Of course, this story, nothing new to you folks. Here is that boundary. Look at current temperatures at 6:15 on Tuesday morning, and you can draw the boundary in right here, going from the southern plains into the Ohio River Valley. And again, it's as Gulf moisture pumps up and over this boundary that, again, we just see repeated rounds of showers and thunderstorms across this area. We'll be dealing with the chance of some severe thunderstorms along that boundary as well as we head into the afternoon and evening on Tuesday, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. Looking at the upper level, the satellite picture, I should say, across the entire continental United States, we're looking at infrared satellite imagery since, it's the sun is just now coming up. We can look at the cloud temperatures, the cloud top temperatures, and where we see the bright colors, these red colors, that's where we're dealing with very powerful thunderstorms, even some of this thunderstorm activity expanding into parts of central and northern Illinois. We go ahead and play this, and you can see the counterclockwise flow around that upper level wave as it's continuing to push into the central United States. And it's the strong upper level winds associated with that are going to fuel those strong thunderstorms and potentially push them towards severe levels as we head towards the later part of the day. The current radar picture, again, this is 6 o'clock in the morning, so if you're watching this video later in the day, maybe check back for an updated radar picture. But again, the story is just abundantly clear no matter how you look at it. This boundary just stalled across the region and rounds of storms moving along it through parts of the central and the eastern Corn Belt. Here's the day one severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, where we see the dark green shading, that's a marginal risk. The yellow is a slight risk, and the enhanced risk can be found across parts of Oklahoma, and then as you talk about the Corn Belt, parts of southeastern Kansas and southwestern Missouri. It's this area that we're concerned about more widespread severe weather, but I'm concerned about a tornado risk all the way into parts of western and central Illinois. Here's the probability of a tornado here within 25 miles of a point from the Storm Prediction Center, and they've got this yellow shading is a 10% probability, which is, nothing to sneeze at. That's one of their higher probabilities, but we see the brown shading, that 5% probability extending again into parts of western and central Illinois, where we may see some storms developing along that warm front during the middle and late afternoon hours. That risk does continue tomorrow. We got the slight risk in parts of Kansas and Missouri, a marginal risk across parts of the eastern Corn Belt for Wednesday, and then Thursday, same story, that risk for at least a couple isolated strong storms along the boundary as it continues to slowly move off to the south and to the east. Now we'll look at the high-resolution NAM model, the precipitation type forecast, or the simulated radar forecast over the next 60 hours or so. This gets us all the way into Thursday morning. And what I want you to notice, or Thursday afternoon, I should say, we'll go ahead and play this one more time. I want you to notice here, as we get into the day, the development of a widespread area of showers and thunderstorms across parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri, and then isolated thunderstorms extending all the way into parts of central Illinois. So let me take the drawings off here. I will play this one more time, and there you see it, that large squall line developing across parts of Kansas and Oklahoma later today, moving across parts of Missouri during the afternoon, and then potentially into Illinois as we get into the overnight hours, producing damaging wind. The other threat that I'm concerned about, we're talking about potentially some tornadoes within that line across parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. As we get into the afternoon, though, I'm also watching this area just along and north of St. Louis. We're very close to the St. Louis area for the development of more isolated cells, not the solid line, the solid squall line, but more isolated thunderstorms. And they may develop into what we call supercell thunderstorms, which are the thunderstorms that are responsible for the majority of tornadoes we get in the United States. And sometimes they like that warm front zone where you can get some added shear that helps them rotate. So I just want to point out, if you live certainly in Oklahoma and Kansas into western Missouri, be weather aware, but also extending over towards the St. Louis area into central Illinois, talking about the risk of maybe a couple of tornadoes Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening. Now, here's a look at the instability. We always watch this as a measure of the fuel in the atmosphere to drive those thunderstorms. And we've got a setup such that we've got a high pressure over the southeast. We've got the trough, the area of low pressure, dipping into the central plains. And then that fuels or pumps Gulf moisture into the central United States if we play this. And you can just see the instability flare each day kind of along that boundary. And that's where we're going to see the risk for those thunderstorms and the risk for those severe thunderstorms. As long as we've got abundant moisture and abundant fuel instability pumping up into that boundary, we'll have to talk about the potential for some thunderstorms. We also have to talk about the risk of maybe some light snow across parts of the northern plains as we play out the precipitation type forecast, seeing the chance for mainly across parts of Wyoming and closer to the Front Range, but seeing some of that accumulating snow perhaps stacking up a light coating across parts of South Dakota and Nebraska. Total liquid precipitation over the next 5 days, so this gets us through 7 p.m. on Saturday. Again, you can see this boundary right here where that's where we're talking about the highest precipitation totals, anywhere from 2 to 3 inches locally higher over the next 5 days. Total snow forecast, this also gets us through towards the end of the week, and there you see it, higher amounts as you get closer to the Rockies, but still possibly seeing some snow accumulating across western Nebraska into western South Dakota, where we might see anywhere from 3 to 6 inches. Light snow possible all the way into North Dakota and then northern Minnesota and Wisconsin, but just talking about light coatings in that area, maybe a dusting. As we look ahead to week 2, this is the week 2 precipitation anomaly from the GFS ensemble model. So this is looking all the way into next week. And unfortunately, we see more of the same, just high precipitation anomalies. We're seeing the suggestion that we'll continue to see the central United States lighting up with this pattern where we see a trough over the western United States and a ridge over the east, allowing storm systems to develop and track along that, keeping, again, the Corn Belt, a big chunk of the Corn Belt at least, very active and very stormy over, this is looking at the 7 to 14 day time frame. So unfortunately, I know we're in planting season. This is the big story. It's not a secret to anyone. The repeated rain over these areas where, we're getting into peak planting season. And I know that you guys want to hear, when Eric Snodgrass and I think that we're going to be able to shut this down and shift to a dry pattern. And right now, the answer is just that it's not there. As far as we can reliably look out here into the 2 to 3 week time frame, the general pattern looks like this, where perhaps, we get a couple days where it's dry-ish, but the overall pattern, broadly speaking, for the next 2 weeks at least, looks rather active, rather stormy, and wet across the central United States. Temperature anomalies, this looks over the next 5 days. And again, there's one more way to look at this boundary, just draped across the central United States. High pressure, where we've got a warmer temperatures over the southeast, continuing to pump moisture, warm, moist area up over the top of that boundary. And then cooler temperatures across the northern half of the Corn Belt. So over the next 5 days, if you live, across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, dealing with some cooler temperatures. If you're in the Mid-South, Kentucky, Tennessee, over towards Ohio, maybe closer to the east, you're a little bit warmer. And then across the battleground here, anywhere from Kansas into Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, that battleground, that's where we continue to be very active, seeing the development of these storm systems and the repeated rain and thunderstorms across the same areas. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video, and I'll have your next Corn Belt regional update for you right here midday on Friday. Have a great day.